Hi, Lori Craig with Splitcoaststampers, and today I want to show you a quick and inexpensive project to dress up your holiday mantle or dining room table. It's called the Pierced Luminary, and it's just really pretty. We're basically making a light box, piercing holes, and then sticking a candle inside to illuminate when we're finished. So what you need to get started is a piece of neutral colored cardstock. This one's cut to 11.5 by 3 3/4. Okay, you need stamps of your choice and colored ink. So I'm using Tailored Expressions, Winter Wonderland, and Merry and Bright. You need double-sided adhesive, a piercing mat, and a piercing tool. Distressing ink to accent the edges of your box, and a scoring tool. I'm using the Scor-Pal. So to get started, I'm going to take my cardstock and slip it up or the top of my Scor-Pal, and I am going to score. Very first score I'm going to make is at 5.5, and I'm going to score again at 11. Okay, and then I want 2 score marks that are off the traditional Scor-Pal measuring system. So I'm going to slide my paper over just 1/4 of an inch. So I'm lined up at 1/4 of an inch on the far left side, and then I'm going to score at 3, and I'm going to score at 8.5 to give me measurements on my paper at 2 3/4, 5.5, 8 1/4, and 11. I'm going to turn my cardstock lengthways, and I want a 1/2 inch score on each side. So I'm going to score at 1/2 inch on the far left. And then a trick that I like is I want a 1/2 inch on the right of my project also, but I don't actually have a 1/2 inch mark from where my cut is. So I'm just going to slide it all the way over, and I'm going to use the 1/2 inch mark here. So I'm going to end up with my paper scored then 1/2 inch in on each of the long sides, 2 3/4, 5.5, 8 1/4, and 11. Okay. So the next step, once I have got my score marks made, you can see I've scored and I've actually folded in a little bit on each one of these. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut out a notch at each one of these score marks, because when I start folding this box up, I don't want this extra paper left on the insides of my corner. And these 1/2 inch scores on the long side are going to become flaps that you don't see once your project is finished. Okay, so all the way around. And one more. You can see I've already pre-trimmed the end of this one. And now my box is almost ready to assemble. All my score markings are made, all my cuts are made, so I'm going to set my Scor-Pal aside. I have my box. It's all cut out, and I've got all 4 sides of the box cordoned off. And I find it easier to actually mask off on this particular project when I am stamping, so that I only stamp in each box one at a time. Looks clean and neat that way. Okay, so I've got that stamped off. Here's my stamp. I'm going to be using a Christmas tree and some green ink. And I want to keep my stamp impression inside all of my score lines. Okay, so that's going to be one side of my box. And then I will just move my mask, my piece of Post-it note, over, and I'll pick up my snowflake stamps, and I will start in on this part. And I like my random patterns to go basically outside of the box on this panel. It looks just a little bit more deliberate. Okay. And I would do that for all 4 of these sections. Okay. So when I get that done, it's going to end up looking like this. Okay. And this is when you need your paper piecing tool and your piercing mat. And I'm going to slip my mat underneath each section, and I'm just going to randomly start punching holes out on this tree. And I am punching holes so that when I finish my luminary box and stick a candle inside, light is going to shine through these holes. Okay. So I would continue doing this until I've punched all of my holes in my trees and in my snowflakes. I'm going to end up with a section that looks just like this. You can see very little difference. After I have punched all of my holes, okay, here all my holes are punched, then I have taken a distressing ink and a distressing tool, and I have just went over the edge of each fold with my distressing ink just to give it a little bit of aging around the edges. Okay. And then I'm going to take my craft knife. This is my final step before I assemble. And on each one of these trees, I'm going to take my craft knife and I'm going to cut just along the edge. Okay. Very simple. All the way through. And how that's going to help me when my project is assembled and complete is I'm going to fan the edges of this tree out. Okay, just a little bit. And that's going to allow a little bit more light to shine through those particular edges. So now I'm ready to put my box together. Take my adhesive. And these folds are just to give you a nice finished edge at the top and the bottom of your project. And they also will make your box a little more sturdy when you get it fully assembled. Okay, so I'm just putting a little bit of adhesive along the long edges. Okay, I'm just going to fold these up over. Now, if I have folded that over any of my punched holes, I'm going to come back with my piercing tool and I'm just going to repunch those real quick. It's just a couple toward the top. So now I have my edges folded down in the back and I'm going to apply adhesive to my little strip that will in essence make my box shape. And I'm going to apply this particular piece of adhesive on the outside of that tab. Pull my, okay, and I'm going to fold this up. Careful to line my edges up here. Okay. And here I have my box ready for a candle to sit inside.